So,
All right, we have just went live just right now, and I want to say thanks everyone for joining in. And tonight we'll start it off by talking about I-594. As you guys know, I did a video on that guy getting arrested. I've been catching a lot of negative feedback from it, and since I know two of you guys were there, I just want to know what you guys saw and what's your take on the whole thing.
I took down the guy. So,
Yeah,
I,
I didn't see him actually put his hands on anybody personally, so I can't say that it was totally cool. But um, I just know that if he did unprovoked, like he was just pushing his way through the crowd and shoved a woman, then that's rights right there for take him down and get him out of there, because that's just probably going to end up him getting beat up because there's more people around.
well, what happened was is he's from Obama's Werewolves. I don't know if you guys know that group or not, which is headed out of a guy out of California.
Never heard of it.
Well, I'm just letting you know. This is what I've done. I've done a lot of intel on Weaver. Um, a lot of his um, friends and stuff are from the Obama Werewolves, um, and he's posted on the Obama Werewolves bunches of times. Um, so I'm assuming that he was put up by them, and also is when also usually when you go to speak or debate or anything, usually people have cue cards or flashcards to kind of give them a night, kind of have them remember. Well, this guy had scripts. This guy's binder was full page by page by page, not even a white spot on the paper, figure of speech, without it being written on.
Yeah,
So
I was looking straight at that. That's the first thing my eyes were drawn to was his binder full of stacks of paper that he was flipping through and coming. He'd take down and look for a minute, and then he'd look up and just start screaming.
yeah, and okay, what happened was is that here's what happened. There was a confrontation with him and another person. Now, there's not enough video evidence to show who hit who first. Okay, it was him and another guy, but that got squared away, and then he started yelling again and started cussing at people and stuff like that, and everybody was putting the flags in front of him to kind of like, tone him down, and then Maria, the person that got shoved, she decided to act like the flags were doing. She put her hands up, walked back towards him. The only thing she touched that was his book. She didn't, it was like, a bump into his book. It wasn't hard. She obviously didn't see the book was right there. And then he shoved her right then and there. Boom.
What's funny is I said this in a different video about how some guy was saying about how, oh, she just bumped into him. I'm like, yeah, I have people bump into me all the time. Doesn't mean I give them a full-blown linebacker shove to the ground.
I didn't, and I saw other videos. I don't think she even hit the ground. I think she went forward quite a bit, but I don't think she actually hit the ground. And in your video, she didn't hit the ground either, Chris.
No,
So,
it was really hard to see from my video. I mean, I was there to cover the event. I really didn't care to videotape this guy, but when it kept getting more escalated and escalated, I decided, oh, I better turn my camera back on just in case something happens. But I really didn't want to videotape the guy. I really seriously just wanted to cover the event.
so, so when she got pushed, that's when the crowd started getting more aggressive towards him. So we just formed a line, started pushing him back because I was part of the security detail. And then I was trying to move him. We were moving him to a spot, and I was just going to take him down the hill. And as he was climbing down the hill, I was going to pull him down. Well, I ended up falling because of that muddy hill more than once, unfortunately. So when he finally got down to the sidewalk, he just wouldn't stop, and he got into my commander's face, and and technically his bodily fluids from speaking going on my commander's face. Technically, that's assault too. And so,
Yeah, as far as I know, that's assault in almost any state.
yeah. Well, it's just by talking, but that doesn't matter. If I was a correctional officer and if they were talking to me and some spit hit my face, then whatever. But anyway, I was waiting for my XO's command to take him down, and then when he started putting the cuffs on him and started fighting it, I just grabbed him by his hoodie and his backpack and just used that leverage to bring him down. And then we were about to cuff him, and then he promised that he would no longer be acting the way he was, and that he was just going to leave. And so we were like, fine. So we let him get up, and then when he got to the middle of the street, he started again. So we all went over there, and I looked at the cop and I told him, hey, this guy just assaulted a female. Want to just and so the cop goes, oh really? Walked over there, did the wrist snap, boom, he was gone.
And I want to tell people, a lot of people are saying, oh, he has a right to freedom of speech. You can't be disruptive, and that's what I was trying to tell these anti-gun people and some of the liberals on who commented on my video. And they don't understand that you can't be disruptive at a peaceful protest. And it was a peaceful protest until this guy started spitting off his whatever speech he had prepared or whatever.
Didn't you tell them motherfuckers, you go like this, okay, tell me where your next peaceful protest is, and I'll carry my AR-15 right around there and see how you guys feel about that, and be disruptive at the same time. See, they wouldn't like it either, so...
And the thing is that local media didn't do any video on that guy getting arrested. But you bet your ass, if we went to a anti-gun protest with a weapon strapped on our back, we'd be all over front page news how pro-gunners disrupt peaceful protest.
Exactly. Chaz, you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I was just kind of looking at some stuff, some news stories and stuff, and yeah, it's ridiculous. So what, like Crim 2 News, they posted their like I checked it out right when it came up. I was looking at it and it said, like at the end of the story, it just said, protesters are against background checks, basically, and that was it. That was the end of the story. They didn't say anything else that, like, they basically were just kind of just taking, they're totally lying, because that's not what we're against. There's already background checks before I-594. That's not what it's about, like it's about the registry and all that. And they just totally made it look completely 180 degrees the opposite way. I'm for background checks. I don't want some guy that has felonies, for raping or, attempted murder or something like that. I don't want that guy owning any guns. But, and it's just ridiculous how they covered that story.
Check this out. Simon kind of gave a point where, regardless of what the person does, it's still infringing on his rights. I understand people talk about Second Amendment, and people talk about, well, if he was a violent offender, they don't want him to have a gun. That is irrelevant. And the only reason why it's irrelevant is because it says shall not be infringed. It doesn't say shall not be infringed with exclusion of violence. It does not say shall not be infringed with exclusion of drugs. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's like I tell people, the criminals will get the guns no matter what we do, and if they can't get a gun, they'll find a way to cause harm, or they'll accomplish whatever mission that they want to do.
I was just trying to explain that to Chaz is, yes, in all likelihood, it's still infringing, and the only way to change that is to make an amendment to the Constitution. So technically, with all these laws coming up, they should have made this amendment to the Constitution, so they can say, okay, you're a violent offender, then you can't have a gun. Well, according to the Constitution, they can have a gun. So.
And with I-594, we can't even let each other borrow our guns anymore. I mean, it's just so ridiculous that, the hell was that? But anyway, it's so ridiculous that I can't even go borrow a friend's gun to go do a review about it without breaking the state law. That is ridiculous, and it doesn't make any sense at all.
Hold on, Chris. Hey, Chaz, do you have access to the group chat here?
What do you mean?
This group chat that's on the side, the right-hand side of
Oh,
the Google Hangout.
chat. Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Okay, I'm going to send you a link. Let's give him 4 minutes to watch this whole video. This is the best video of what happened on YouTube. It shows everything you need to know about the situation. So go ahead, check that out, and we'll give you time to do that. I'm sure Chris will. And yeah, so you can see the initial part where she gets pushed. You could skip to the part where hopefully you skip past where I fell down, and then he gets on the sidewalk, and then you can see when we dropped him. So.
But anyway, like we were saying, with I-594, it seems like you read about how even the police departments don't fully understand what the law means. They're still really confused on what they can enforce and what they can't enforce.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, I understand that you don't want people don't want violent offenders. I understand that people don't want this and not want that, but that's just too bad. Because the Second Amendment clearly states shall not be infringed, and that is a right given to us by the higher power, according to the Constitution.
Well, I tell people the only people gun laws affect are law-abiding citizens. I mean, people who obey the law already obey the law regardless. I mean, we already know it's immoral to commit heinous crimes and things like that, but people choose to do it. You know, it's illegal to speed, but look how many speeding tickets there are given out every year. Look how many traffic tickets there are given out every year. I mean, if people are going to break the law, they'll do it, and having a gun law saying, oh, you can't own this or own that, it's like some kind of magic wand they're waving around saying, well, if we make this law, if we ban 30-round magazines, people will just stop killing each other, and that's not going to happen.
I know.
Totally. Yeah.
I know this guy that doesn't have a Social Security. I follow his Facebook. That doesn't have a Social Security card. He's a sovereign citizen, and he doesn't have a driver's license. He gets a ticket. That motherfucker gets out of it because he still has his car. He still runs his business and all that thing. Because the reason he gets out of it is because there's a loophole. Because when you sign your driver's license, you're literally signing a contract with the government that you're going to obey the laws. Check that out.
Yeah. My sister's never owned a driver's license, and it's funny that you say that because I think anytime she's ever been in trouble, she kind of got out of it with only paying like minimal fines, instead of getting racked up with hundreds of dollars for this and that, and they're just nailing you over and over again. It's kind of funny that you said that because I never realized she's never had a driver's license, but she's been pulled over a bunch, and she's never been in serious boo-hoo trouble.
Yeah, what this guy does, I have screenshots of it. I can always send it later. I don't want to dig through it because it's on my phone and I don't like switching devices. Basically, he finds a spot on the ticket. He writes some type of Latin that's on it. I'm assuming is from some type of constitutional thing or something. And then he makes a spot for a signature, and then he sends it back. And they never send him a bill for a fine. They never pick him up. They never do nothing. I've been following this guy for a long time, and he's not the first time he's posted something like that. And you want to talk about people being radical in the ideals? This guy, I tell you what, he's one of them. But not like crazy, I'm going to go kill people with. He's just really strong about his ideals.
You're talking about the guy who disrupted the protest?
No, we got sidetracked. Now, the guy that disrupted the protest, he's a part of the Obama's. Oh, if you really want to know, hold on, give me a minute. I'll look it up and I'll give you the link. There's another guy. Obama Werewolves Army. Obama's Werewolves Army. Sorry, Barack Obama's. I'll post a link in the chat so you can see all this wonderful anti-gun.
Whoa, what happened there?
I don't know what happened. Looks like he got cut off or something. Oh, there he is.
Oh, there you go. Close the wrong browser?
Yeah, something happened. Anyway, back to this chat. There we go. Oh, I had fat finger syndrome. I hit the enter and some other buttons, and it must have closed me out. So, if you guys just here's the Facebook link to Obama's Werewolf Army. So, anything? Did you watch that video, Chaz?
I have watched it a few times, and I was actually there. If you watch Chris Kelly's video there
Yeah.
of the whole guy, you know, I'm at the end of it talking. I'm holding my daughter, and I sound kind of awkward in it because I just said what was on my mind, and then he's like, "Hey, repeat that for the camera." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, you're the guy in the cowboy hat.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, I'm the guy walking around with the brown jacket.
Yeah, I actually, because when Chris was talking to you, I was standing right there with my daughter. Well, you know, she's running around having fun. After that guy got out of there, you know, she was scared. She was scared when that guy was running around there. She was totally like, you know, kind of chill before all that happened, and then when that guy started screaming and causing a ruckus, she clinched up right up to my side, and I just picked her up, and she buried her head in my chest, man, and that wasn't cool with me. If for some guy to come there when she was feeling all right before, and then that guy caused her to feel scared to be there, it really kind of upset me, you know?
Yep.
Well, you know, I also think that guy was on something because he was not acting right at all. He was acting very weird and just very strange.
When you're a paid provocateur and you get paid to act that way, why not?
You know, it's funny. I have had a lot of people tell me that they think he was paid, and I honestly think he was too. You know, with all the prepared papers and stuff he had, and then he was blabbing about Sandy Hook. I literally want to tell this guy, I'm like, dude, Sandy Hook, the background checks would have not stopped that guy. I was like, this guy's obviously at the wrong protest.
Sandy Hook never happened. If you go to the FBI, okay, there was Sandy Hook was the only murders that would have happened in that county. Well, FBI does notes publicly on every single murder done in every single county. So, like if Spokane had 4 murders this year, you can look up FBI and whatever list they had, whatever it's at, and look up Spokane. It'll tell you 4 murders, and it'll tell you if it was white, black, or other. And Sandy Hook was 0 in that county.
Huh, you have to post a link to that on the YouTube page so we can check that out.
How about you just send an email to Alex Jones and have him give you the information?
I don't want to talk to Alex Jones.
Why not?
That guy always seems like he's always pissed off. whenever I watch him, he's always yelling or ranting about something.
Hey, you know, it's the way the world is, you know. It's kind of hard not to be pissed off, to be honest.
Well, I think that's why a lot of people, even in the video, you had gun owners who were using offhand language. And I think, you know, these kind of things, emotions run high. I mean, people are tired of our gun rights getting taken away. The guy that was doing the protest kept talking about, I have a right to be here. It's like, well, we also have a right to be armed. And so it's, you know, I tell these anti-gun people, you can't pick and choose which rights you want to enforce and which ones you want to take away. They're all in the Constitution. They're all in the Bill of Rights. And so it's already in stone that these are our rights, and people do take it personal when you try to take them away.
You know, about the most ignorant thing. See, my wife was having a right debate at work because they get bored where she works. There's a lot of things happening over there, and so they had this debate, and then she started talking about First Amendment right, and her friend was like, well, maybe some people need to have their First Amendment right taken away, and I was like, that is the most ignorant thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, people don't understand what they're actually saying, because if you allow the government to pick and choose which rights to take away from who, then what if they decide to take your rights away for no reason, for there's no due process on whatever? They just say, oh well, Mr. Kelly, your AR looked like it was shoved up your ass, so we're going to take your First through Fourth Amendment away from you. You know what I'm saying? So, not that your AR does look like it's up your ass or anything, just.
Yeah, no,
He's still
no,
laughing.
the whole reason, the First Amendment's there is because people were being prosecuted and brought in front of trial because of just stuff that they said. You can't, to a certain extent, you can't hold what somebody says against them completely to where you can take them and put them away in jail or prison. And that's why the First Amendment was even created, and why it's in the Constitution, is because that kind of ridiculousness. And now we're just trying to keep firearms to protect our families, the people who we love, and even other people that we don't know. If we see them getting almost, murdered, of course I'm going to, step in and try to save that person, even if it isn't with deadly force. Maybe the presentation of my gun is going to stop that person, but if it's past that point where it's going to happen no matter what, of course that right should be there for me to put that person down, get them away from that person in any way I can, and a firearm is the most effective way to do that. And the most effective way for us to be protected from getting put in prison is our First Amendment. So every amendment is there for a reason, because it's important.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when I first initially walked up to that guy and people were giving him shit, and this is before he got too aggressive, I told people, hey, chill out. He's got a First Amendment right. Maybe, just let him get him out of his system for a few minutes. So, because the other reason why I was doing that is because he can't say that we didn't allow him to talk at all. You know what I'm saying? But whatever.
What's funny is the people organizing the event, they said if he wanted to talk, he could have been put on the agenda for a speech, and he could have gave his speech, and he probably would have been booed off the stage or whatever, but he would have done it the proper way. He would have gone through the proper channels and gave his little whatever speech, and then went away. He could have done it that way, but no, he chose instead to act out and be disruptive and try to, make himself famous and push his agenda.
Exactly.
But one thing a lot of these anti-gunners don't understand, and they're like, they don't understand why we cling to our guns, is because our rights are slowly being eroded away. It's like every year there's a little bit more stupid crap we have to go through. There's a little bit more anti-gun laws being passed, and it's like every single year they just keep taking away, until we're left with nothing, just like how the UK is, or Australia for an example. It's just they don't understand that.
Yeah, I posted on my Facebook, I go, because they're saying that the Second Amendment is too old. So I go, oh, well, the Second Amendment is too old. Well, then how about your right to freedom of speech, and how about your right to due process is getting old? How about that? How about we just take that away from you too? That was just a little rant that I had on my own personal Facebook, but it does bring up a point. You can't just say one part of the Constitution is old, not the rest of it. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, it's like your freedom of speech is too old, and your freedom of religion is too old. I had a friend of mine talking about how in this state we have initiatives which can be passed, and he says that's ridiculous. He was telling me, he's like, so if someone got enough signatures to bring back slavery, they could put slavery on the ballot. And I'm like, I don't know, that's a good question. I'd be kind of curious to see what would happen.
Hey, if Michael Bloomberg, dropped a couple, hundreds of millions of dollars in the state, it might happen. I don't know. That's just the ridiculousness of it to me. You know, like if you put enough money into convincing people, you could convince a vast majority of people.
Well, I think that I think it should be almost a law to where no, like to get on a ballot and stuff, it should be a somebody that is from Washington.
Yes.
Um, and I'm not talking about somebody that's been here for 30 fucking days either. I'm talking about somebody that's actually lived here a while. You know, I think what is it? Some of our legislators have rules. They got to live there for so many days or a year or whatever it is. Am I right? Before they can run for office.
Yeah, I don't know the exact law on it, but that's what
I
I've
think
heard.
it's like 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's legit. You know, so if you're going to put it on the ballot, you got to at least be here for this long and actual have an address. You know, not one of those two-timing addresses where you like travel back and forth. Maybe you live in California for a while. An actual Washington State person. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that's one thing I was talking about in another chat I was doing about how 594 is going to they're going to try to make it in other states. So you got these anti-gun groups like Bloomberg pushing all this money, and they have all this money to spread around. And you guys saw it in the commercials, the I-594 commercials. They were completely lying and making it look like you could buy a gun online with no questions asked. And the way they presented that, they made it look like even you can order it and have it shipped to your house. I mean, and that's totally not what you can do.
By law, it doesn't matter if it was a private sale or not. It still would have to go ship through an FFL. So
Yeah,
But
that
in the
that
well, the
that
commercial made
was
it look
what
like
got on my nerves.
yeah,
Sorry, man.
that's
That's just
okay.
that was the most thing. That was the thing that got on my nerves the most. You know, was that they were sitting there like close the loophole. That seemed like that was the whole campaign's hinge point was close the loophole. And they're like, okay, so gun shows, online sales, yeah, anybody can get a gun, and no matter who you are, you can get a gun, even if you're underage. It's like, no, dude, you have to go through the proper sources to even get it. There is no loophole at all, and they're saying close the loophole. And the other thing is saying that this kind of law that's been passed in other states has worked, and that's not true. It might have worked for a little bit of gun crime, but people just start, just like in the UK. Now they got campaigns saying go take the knives, because once the guns were taken away, people started stabbing each other at the same rate. People are still dying at the same rate. It's just a different weapon.
Well, it's
yep.
like that saying about how people have been killing each other for thousands of years before guns were even invented. And I have seen those campaigns with the UK trying to ban like serrated knives and things like that, and it's just completely ridiculous.
Yeah, well, we're also talking about the nanny state of UK where you can't have certain toasters in there because they take up too much electricity, which costs more CO2 gas to be put out in the air. So come on. But
Well, we also saw with this in Australia with that crazy guy with a shotgun holding up that cafe, and it's like I just want to look at the people of Australia and be like, hey, look at your gun control works. Look at that, the bad guys have the guns, but you don't have the guns, but the bad guys do.
yeah, and well, unfortunately, I think that we're probably going to go to this world government pretty soon in our lifetime. And as much as I hate to say it, as much I would want to believe in America to stand up against it, it might just happen. And once that happens, dude, we're screwed. I mean, there goes our Constitution, and everybody's going to be on their hands and knees, groveling, crying, wishing they had all their rights.
Have you guys seen the I don't remember who linked it to me, but I watched a thing about a Canadian reporter that was sitting in a newsroom, and he was talking about, like, the same discussion of stand with people on this subject, because if you don't stand with everybody, eventually they're going to chip away at us, and you're going to be the only one standing. And that's what they did in Canada. They slowly took away, the semi-automatics, and then it was, the revolvers, because they could be concealed too. And then it was, shotguns, because who needs a, fast-loading shotgun? You could only have the double barrel or whatever, and they just chip away one by one thing until like people were like, hey, who cares about the guys that want these big old assault rifles, and they're out there dressing all this gear? Nobody cares about those guys. Those guys are on the fringe. I'm just a farmer. I need my gun to hunt fowl. Like, if you don't stand for everybody, eventually you're gonna only be the only person standing. That's what he was saying.
What gets me is the farmer with the bolt-action hunting rifle who goes out and says, well, you don't need an AR-15, you don't need a 20-round magazine. I have a 3 or 4 round magazine. That's all I need. Those are the guys that I don't understand at all.
Yeah, well, that's because they're only going out there setting up for something that's just, feeding on grass. They don't see somebody that's shooting something like bears. You need a backup gun in case you can't get them with your rifle anymore. You can't swing that thing around. You need something to pull out and shoot the bear if it's charging at you and you can't get your rifle up fast enough. It's that kind of thing. Like, if you're only shooting stuff that's grazing out in the pasture or something, yeah, you're only going to need 3 or 4 rounds, probably only one.
Well, the people got to understand, people are coming in numbers now. When people are invading homes and doing all these things, it's not like it used to be, where it was just either it didn't happen or it was maybe a one guy that was a little high that day and needed some money. Now, like in California where I'm from, even, it's packs of people. People roll up in cars and do home invasions on you, all carrying AKs, handguns, whatever they can carry. And you think 2 or 3 rounds is going to take care of a car full of people? Unless you're a really good shot and you can hit 2 with 1 round at a time,
The old magic bullet.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, if you're living in rural areas, you don't got to worry about that stuff as much, You still, because I've lived in farming communities over in Ohio, and they had to protect against people that would come up and just drive up and grab whatever they wanted to and take off, because nobody, there's so much open space that you could just kind of just get away you take off at high speeds. It's going to take you a minute to jump in your car and chase them, or get somebody like a sheriff after them. You still got to worry about that kind of stuff, but not on the scale as where you're living in a place where people are just stacked on top of each other and people are going crazy. You need something to defend yourself.
People call this town Spokompton. Well, I'm from California. Fucking Spokane, can't even touch Compton. It's,
I grew up in the Antelope Valley, and that place is a lot more dangerous than Spokane is, for sure.
so when I hear Spokompton, I just fall out of my chair laughing, because, like, these guys never grew up to where I grew up. Where I grew up, it was a whole lot harsher conditions than this.
Oh, yeah, where we grew up at, we'd hear gunshots on the weekends in Southern California. You hear crime, gunshots, people getting carjacked all the time. It was an everyday thing.
I had to swoop up a 5-year-old kid and hit the floor on a drive-by before. So, these people don't know. And they talk about gangs. Yes, I know there's gangs in Spokane, but they're not out there like they are in California. They're all low-key here for some reason. I just don't understand that. Because I've ran into a gang member here, because I live in the Browns Edition. We all know what the Browns Edition is like, right? So, I pack. I did have one incident where this guy was going to assault me with my wife, and as soon as I revealed my sidearm, he thought twice. As long as I didn't draw that sidearm, if I would have drawn it and not fired, I would have been arrested. So, but I didn't draw it. I just showed him it. He thought twice, and then he went on about his business doing whatever he had to do. So.
Yeah, nobody had to go to jail, so it was a good day.
Yep. And now I see that motherfucker, and he's nice to me now.
Well, see, in Southern California, like, the good guys don't even have the option to carry. It's so ridiculous down there. Like, you and I both know, growing up, the bad guys always have guns. No matter what kind of gun control laws California would pass, shootings would not stop. All you would hear about is innocent people getting killed, defenseless people get killed, and as a law-abiding citizen, we can't even carry a gun.
Were you there in the 90s?
I grew up there in the 90s. I'm only like 30 years old, so I wasn't that old in the 90s.
Remember in Southern California, that big old bank robbery with all them?
The North Hollywood shootout.
Yeah, I watched that on the news when it was happening live, man. I remember that.
I think assault rifles back then were banned in California, weren't they?
They were banned after that happened because those guys had fully automatic weapons and blah, blah, blah. And after that happened, that's when California started banning the AKs, the ARs, the 30-round magazines, and all that crap.
In Washington, do we need that bullet button in Washington for your AR?
No.
So I don't need to put one on mine?
I
don't know who said that. I've never had to put a bullet button or anything on any of my ARs.
There's no restrictions like that here in Washington.
Yeah, I was just asking if there was restriction on it because I saw one of my gun-toting buddies. He had a bullet button on his, and I'm like, really?
Must be a California import gun or something.
I think it was from Arizona.
But, no. That's where they're aiming the same kind of thing that just happened here in Washington. They're going after Arizona, a couple other states right now. So I think it's been in the works in those kind of states. I just traveled down there actually at the beginning of the year. I brought my firearm with me on the plane. Not on the plane, but yeah, actually it was on the plane, but it was just, in carry or on my luggage that got stored underneath the plane. And got down there, and they were, they had reciprocity with my firearm and everything, so I was able to conceal carry. But the second I hit, there's California right there, Nevada's right there, and I basically had to take an alternate route to feel comfortable to get out of my car and go fuel up. I don't know anybody. The trucker stops, the rest stops. I don't want to be getting out of my vehicle in places where I can't have it on me when I'm traveling like that, because you always hear that some of the most weirdest kind of crimes happen at rest stops and stuff like that. I don't want to be getting out of my vehicle in a state that doesn't, honor my concealed carry permit.
Yeah.
Well, and when you look at a state like Arizona, where they have constitutional carry, and they're not having like tons of violence. I mean, people think, oh, you can carry in Arizona without a permit, there's going to be a lot of violence. No, that's actually the opposite. There's actually, the gun crime has gone down, and so therefore there's no reason why every single state shouldn't be a constitutional carry state and just get away from all these permits altogether.
Yeah, well, either that or national reciprocity. If you can pass the national background check, I think,
there's no such thing.
Yeah, well, no, that when you do the FBI background check, if you can pass that, if the FBI doesn't want you for stuff, if they don't know something about you, then I don't know. Most of the time, you're good to go. You should be able to carry wherever you want to.
Well,
if they say it's okay.
I tell people it's like that lady in Pennsylvania who crossed into New Jersey with her concealed carry permit. She had a permit and a gun on her, and she got pulled over in Jersey and told the cop, yeah, I got my concealed carry gun, but I got my permit. And she didn't understand that it's not good in New Jersey. She thought it was good in every single state. And I have to kind of like agree that a concealed carry permit should be good in every state. You went through a federal background check on the federal level, so why is it not good in every single state? It's like your driver's license. We drive over to Oregon. Well, my driver's license is still recognized in Oregon. Why is not my concealed carry permit recognized in every single state as well?
You can wish in one hand, and then you know how it goes. You
I
know,
know how it goes. I understand. It's just, it's ridiculous that we have all these stupid gun laws and these gun permits and the concealed carry with a permit when the criminals do not give two shits about what we do.
Yeah, I've met people here in Washington. They're like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be kicked out of the state for the rest of my life because every time I come here I get arrested and they tell me I'm not allowed here anymore. If this person gets caught in Washington at all, they're getting charged with a felony and put in prison. Yet they're here with fucking anything they want to. Knives, pistols, anything they can get their hands onto, like they're criminal. And they have access to this stuff. People steal guns all the time. I don't know, man. It's just I've seen people that are like that. I met this guy and he just openly told me about this stuff. He's like, yeah, I got a pistol, yeah, whatever. I'm like, what the hell? And you're like, I don't know. That was when I was younger and didn't probably should have reported the guy or something. I don't know, but it's just like those kind of people are here. He's not even supposed to be in the state of Washington at all, and he's here with guns and knives. He's not supposed to have those either, but he's here with them. He's not even supposed to be here, and he's here with
Yeah,
those
law on
things.
paper is just that. It's law on paper, and only the law-abiding citizen who chooses to follow it is going to follow any law that's written.
Stone Guy has joined the chat.
Stone
Yeah,
guy.
what's happening, gentlemen?
What's up, Mr. Stone?
Oh, same old shit, brother. How about you?
Hey, I'm fucking chilling today.
You get anything good for Christmas?
I got my fucking sound bar.
My girlfriend's mom got me 100 rounds of 9mm, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Hey, that's always a good stocking stuffer if it can actually stay in the stocking.
Yeah, no, it was laid down on the floor there underneath the tree.
My dad tried to get me 9mm, but he got me some 9mm Makarov.
I had that conversation.
Yeah, I remember having that conversation with somebody not too long ago.
I almost bought some.
It's like, it says 9mm on it. And I was like, well, my dad's 70 something. So I was like, yeah, Dad, it's 9mm Luger. Oh, all right.
Well, my 7-year-old father did that. I would have been like, it's cool, Dad.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did. I was like, that's cool. I said, I'll trade it. I know a buddy that's got a Makarov, so I'll trade him something.
I've gotten magazines from people say, hey, here's a magazine I got, you can have it. I'm like, this won't fit in any of my guns. And they're like, they're not all the same,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, then he got me, luckily he got me some and he called me. He's like, I'm standing in Bass Pro Shop. What kind of guns do you have? I said, well, just about everything. And he says, well, do you have a 357? I said, yes. So, in addition to the 9mm Makarov, I get 357 SIG ammo. Luckily, I have a 357 SIG, so that worked out.
Nice.
Well, see, I wanted a 357 SIG. Out of all, I don't want to get in a debate here, but in my personal preference, of all the ballistics that I've seen, all the testing that I've seen, I think that is one of the most best, rounds you can actually carry. But the cost effectiveness of me wanting to go out and shoot all the time, hell, my 40 costs enough already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a hard pistol to train with to get proficient. With the I agree 100% with you as far as the ballistics, the velocities and energy it produces. It's phenomenal round, flat shooting.
It has the biggest bang on it than any caliber I've ever shot.
I'd like to carry a 10mm, but that's another expensive round, and I just don't have the money to even reload for it.
Well, the 357 is louder than the 45. It's louder, in my opinion, louder than the 40 or the 9mm. For some reason, that round is just loud.
Yeah, and it definitely, because what I have is I've got a Glock 22 with the conversion barrel for the 357 SIG, and so I can get a direct comparison when I shoot my Glock 22 and 40 cal, switch out the barrel, and then shoot a 357 SIG, and it's substantially, it's a different recoil. It just, it doesn't, I wouldn't say it hurts, but you can definitely feel the difference between a 40 and a 357 SIG. Out of the same platform, out of the same gun, it's a better comparison, being able to shoot, one, switch the barrel and shoot the other.
My 2 cents on calibers is whatever you decide to carry, at least you're carrying. That's how I see it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I'm happy to announce, and the reason why it's an announcement because it's a 6-month long ordeal. My wife found a 9mm that she actually likes and shoots and hit bulls with.
Oh shit, that's impressive that your wife will shoot a gun. Mine hates them.
Hey, well, my wife was raised around with small amounts of firearms, so she didn't really have a big, disgusting opinion about it. So when she met me, and we started talking about things and started showing her about things, she drew an interest to it too, and now it's turned into something that we can go to a sharpshooter on couples night.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
yeah, absolutely.
We can turn shooting into a date, man.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be awesome to be able to do that. Of course, that's what I had kids for, because my kid loves to shoot, so that's kind of our thing. But yeah, she could care less.
Now, Stone Guy, you reload on a Dillon press, don't you?
I'm sorry?
Do you use a Dillon press?
No, sir. No, I don't own one. I've got several buddies that I borrow theirs from time to time, but I haven't got into reloading myself yet. I need to. I don't know. I just can't I can't pull the trigger on that whole setup, because I'm the kind of guy that has to. If I get it, I'm going to go all out and have the damn ultrasonic and the tumbler and the media.
He's the type of guy that's going to have one of those press button presses, all electronic. You just press the button.
Yeah, if I did, I'd probably get the 1050 and have the auto primer tubes and I'm just definitely a gadget kind of guy. So I know.
There's some videos out there of those things running automated that people set up, and I'm like, holy crap, that's an awesome setup they got there.
He's got voice commands.
It's like Jetsons.
Yeah, no shit. But I would love, man. And the other big hindrance in that whole equation is the fact that I really don't have room, and my wife would kill me if I allocated an area of the house to gunpowder and bullets. Shoot, what is this shit?
I'm still having trouble finding pistol powder in my local area. I can find the rifle stuff, but the pistol stuff is nowhere to be seen still.
Yeah, the guy that I see here, he's selling 3 pounds of 9mm compatible powder. I asked him about the 2. He said he was already going in on a guy with the deal, and he had a 3rd that he could sell me. I said, all right, I'll meet up with you, and he never got back to me. I said, hey, you never got back to me, and he's like, oh, never mind, the other guy backed out of the deal, so I'm not going to sell you anything. I was like, all right, what the hell, man?
So,
I didn't understand that.
Gavin Simon is making his own powder.
Yeah, I saw that video, Gavin. He was making just regular black powder?
No, he was making cartridge powder, man, I think.
Like something similar to a tight group or something, or a...
Sounds like something you could blow your hand off with,
Well,
I know black powder is pretty primitive on the ingredients, but smokeless powder, I don't really know much about on how to make it, but I don't know. I mean, if you can make your own powder, kudos, but that's more science than I'm willing to get involved with.
Yeah, it's all math, but you know how it is with math. You get one number off, eventually down the equation, you're going to be way off.
Yep.
Well, like Barbie said, math is hard. You guys remember that?
No, but it was funny.
That I don't know. It was several. I think it was probably, well, hell, it's probably been 10 or 15 years ago now. There was a Barbie doll that came out, and it was one of those talking Barbies. And when you pulled the string on her back, one of the phrases that were pre-programmed into her was "math is hard." And the women's lib groups jumped all over Mattel and was like, "You can't be. This is a horrible portrayal of young women, and this is degrading to all women, and it's got to be removed." And so, sure enough, man, United States of the Offended, they pulled the doll and revamped it and got rid of that phrase because they said it was, degrading to women.
Well, it's not like Barbie was lying. I mean, math is hard. You know what's funny? I'll see something that women do that's degrading towards men, but men are just like, yeah, whatever. We got better shit to do than bitch about this.
Hey, Chris.
Exactly.
Can you go to the left side of your Google Hangout and that little toolbar?
I'm not using that damn draw thing, man. I'm not using it. I'm not doing it.
I want to try it.
No.
What is it?
Oh.
Will somebody volunteer?
What does it do?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
You can like draw on each other's pictures, whatever, and draw stupid crap, and it's just it's something you can do while you're hanging out, talking to people. You can draw on their picture.
Chaz, open yours, would you? Oh,
Stone Guy's gonna do it.
I downloaded the app because I didn't know what the hell it was, and I was like, all right, and then I don't know.
It wouldn't let me. It wouldn't let me download anything until somebody was like, "Oh yeah."
Well, I'll do the effects. I don't have my camera on, so I can't do the draw one. But you can, the one that says effects, you can do an applause. And let's see, you can do the gong if someone.
People are listening to this like, what the hell's going on?
There's crickets.
That's about what it's at right now.
Yeah, it's great. And then you could do the lead up to something great.
It's like, I thought this was a gun chat. What happened?
How do you do the headwear?
The what now?
The headwear.
That's under effects as well.
I know. I'm trying to figure out how to use it.
I think you just have to go place it.
Okay, the last subject I want to talk about before everyone gets sidetracked on these effects.
Stolen valor?
Is children and guns. I know growing up, I was around guns. My family had a lot of guns hanging around, and we never had any problems or accidents. My parents taught me gun control. They taught me not to touch the guns when I'm alone. If I see a gun, to get an adult, and blah, blah, blah. And I just want to get your guys' thoughts on having children and guns. I know some of you guys on here are parents, and I'd like to see what you guys have to say about that.
That's mine.
Yeah, I just had an experience just a couple days ago where I had taken off my gun belt and my pistol was sitting on my bed, and then my kids wanted to come down and watch. They wanted to watch some TV that I had on in my room. And he was sitting there, and he was all cool. He left it alone. My son doesn't usually pay that much attention to my firearm, but I was doing something and I turned back around and he was just down there, like just touching the butt of it, like it's like, whoa, I'm touching it, and I was like, what are you doing, man? It's like, you're not supposed to be touching it without my permission. You're supposed to ask, and it just made me think about it. Kids are curious. He's fired my firearm before, but he's still curious about it when it's just sitting there in my room, and that's what kind of scares me, is that he's gonna want to play around with. Maybe I need to take him out a little bit more. What's that?
How old's your son?
He is 6 years old, and he's fired my .22. He's fired my 9mm handgun. He didn't like it that much because of the recoil, but he's done it.
Yeah, that's about the same age I started my son when he was 5, 5 or 6, right around there. And to me, getting kids started young helps to remove that curiosity. It helps to remove that mystique surrounding a firearm.
Yeah, it's
and I think,
been a little while since I did it, so I understand. Like I probably do need to take him out more
yeah,
and get that out of his system. Like wanting to touch it and see what it's all about, because I know kids are curious, and I totally feel you on
absolutely.
that. And I think even if you introduce it to them young, if you only show them one time, that might even increase their curiosity and be like wanting to touch it more.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I
And
think,
that's what I was going to say as far as just stick with it. And he's still young. I think that's just inherently, part of being young. Mine was kind of that way, but I try to take him out 2 or 3 times a month, and now he's 11, and he absolutely would not that I would. All my guns stay locked up regardless, but if I happen, for whatever reason, like even when we're out at the range and shooting the guns, I have no problem leaving a loaded gun right there on the bench and walking to the restroom or walking somewhere, and I know he's not going to screw with it until I get back. And that's, like I said, that just takes, some conditioning and, training and experience with your kid over some time.
can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
With your son being that old and being around guns for so long, have you ever received comments from other people about how polite he is or how respectful he is?
Oh, absolutely. At the range, when he interacts with other people at the shooting range, or I'm also a competition shooter, and I take him to matches and stuff, and he's actually participated in a little 22 match with me. But yeah, it's like I said, it's one of those things that will eventually, when you start him young and you teach him the right way, it sticks. Kids are. But
Yeah.
on the
Well,
other,
I used to be a volunteer firefighter, and the biggest concern for me was kids with matches. I think are more dangerous than kids with firearms, in my opinion.
well,
Or
like
or
just kind of that
kids in
old.
a unattended pool. You see a lot of
Right.
drowning.
Yeah. I mean, it's that old adage, if you put a cookie jar in front of them, tell them not to touch it. The first thing you do when you turn your back is get a damn cookie out of it. And that's kind of the same concept with anything that if it's taboo and you never let them experience it in the proper manner and condition them to understand how dangerous it is, in the right atmosphere, then they're always, that's going to happen.
Well, if that happens, then they're going to steal the gun from you, take it to school, and give it to the teacher.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Yeah.
Yeah, what was up with that YouTube video of
So
them
horrible.
promoting that? I don't understand.
Chime in on your guys' conversation, and I think I hit it. Man,
Oh, dude, that was the most retarded advertisement I've ever seen in my life.
wait a minute. So that means they did it at a public school in California. So that means they committed a felony?
Yeah. So, it's
Everyone involved was an accomplice.
Yeah, that's just.
Yeah, that would be some major, major felony cases. Right?
Yeah. Look at that old credits list there, and just put all of them in prison.
Yeah, Jesus, man, that's crazy. But no, I think it's important to get kids started young, and I also think it's important not to ever be until they're, and I guess it would be relative to the age and the maturity of your child. I mean, a parent's going to know what their child is capable of handling. Like I said, I take my kid out and shoot all the time. When we're at the range, he kind of has free reign. Like, he loads his own magazines. He knows hot and cold. He knows when to shoot, what to shoot. And I kind of give him his space and his freedom at the range to handle the gun, as he chooses to a certain degree. But at home, the guns are not only locked in a safe, my room is locked as well. So I never take for granted the potential of him fucking up if he, if he so chooses, because he is still an 11-year-old kid. And so I think that's important also while you're teaching them. Don't ever be so confident or so naive to think, well, my kid knows gun safety. He'll never touch a gun if I'm not around. I still don't take that for granted.
It's same thing with a dog, not to relate your kid to your dog, but I'm just saying, like, the potential for something to happen with your dog, like it's the well-trained dog. You don't just let any random kid just come up and pet him, because you never know when your dog's just going to, see that kid coming towards him and just know that, and not realize that it's not a threat, like,
Yeah,
dogs have that
absolutely.
instinct to protect their people, to protect their group of humans that they're with, and if some kid just like comes at them the wrong way, they could just get them, and you never expect it because your dog is the most well-behaved dog, and things just happen. Same thing with pools. You leave your backyard unlocked, you never know when one of your neighbors might leave your kid out, and it just goes wandering in your backyard and drowns in your pool.
Yeah,
Things happen.
Absolutely. I think that's a great analogy with the dog because a dog is an animal. It's an animal instinct, and it's kind of the same thing as with a child. You never know; they still are a child, so you never take that for granted. So no, I think that's a good analogy or comparison.
Lots of dogs when you're not around, they tend to fuck up.
Yeah.
But another thing I was going to say is, when you got kids that are 5, 6, all the way up to 11, 12 years old, there's going to be a lot of situations, a lot of times where their curiosity is going to overpower their right and wrong instinct. So
that's the human condition, man. Kids learn. They're always learning. Every experience that they encounter is a learning thing. If you remember when you were a kid and you were like, oh, what's this firecracker gonna do when I, like hold on to it while it goes off, and then you learn really fast that it's gonna hurt. It's the same thing, and like if you haven't been told that that's gonna mess you up, you might just try it out of curiosity to see what's gonna do.
Yeah, and that was a shame that I didn't get to shoot with my father until I was over of age. So, which is, when I have kids, I hope to change that tradition into a much, much younger situation than that.
Well, the first time I shot a gun, I was 10 years old, so, I mean, that goes to show you how my family was.
Did you learn on a semi-automatic, a bolt action, a revolver?
My first gun I ever shot was a pump action 22.
Nice.
No,
I learned on a revolver myself.
That'd actually be a good one to learn on because it's got that long trigger pull and stuff.
Yeah, double action. Yep. You learn how to respect each shot.
Yep. But
I can tell you this though, with kids and guns, there's some adults out there who I don't think should own a gun, just like there's adults out there who probably shouldn't drive.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had conversations similar to this before where, there's people that had kids that were, 20 or 22, 24 years old, and they would give their 12-year-old a gun before their 24-year-old because it's just a matter of, maturity and responsibility.
Well, that's why, like at these public shooting ranges, like I know Lauren and Chaz, we met at that shooting event, and there were some guys there who were waving their pistols around and flagging people, and I was just like, holy crap, these people should not own a gun.
Yeah, with that whole thing, man, I don't know, man, it's a scary world that we live in because I think more emphasis should be put on, okay, criminals are going to get a hold of guns, even if it's against the law for anybody to have guns. Maybe we should put a little more emphasis on training for, a mass public, like in the classroom. Maybe I know I've seen a video, I don't remember where it was or what year it was based on, but it was an educational video for like I think like elementary kids, and it was like, hey, if you find a firearm, respect it and make sure you tell an adult or something like that. And they banned that from schools. I'm like, why would they ban that from schools? That's
Yeah, it was
teaching a
the
kid.
Eddie Eagle program or something like that from the NRA, I believe. But
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's just like,
I'm with you, man. You know, now we teach our kids about drugs. We have DARE programs in school.
which is known not to fucking work.
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, honest to God, when I can, and I'll just what I learned from DARE was that you shouldn't do drugs unless you can afford to do drugs. Because basically, all DARE was saying how people become criminals to have the money to buy drugs. And
Well,
so,
there's also a tell-on program too, because I remember going through there, and they would bring out these little suitcases, and they'll show you what all the drugs look like, what the hypes look like, the spoons, the lighters, and they would always say, if you ever see something like that, report it, da 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 da. You know,
yeah. Well, honestly,
I'll understand that this government is promoting tell on your parents programs and tell on your neighbors, and like it was a case in New York where what was it, Homeland Security, I think it was, or NSA, one of them stupid agencies, was actually paying people to report on their neighbors.
oh yeah.
I
Well,
think
speaking
$1,000
of
a
that,
pop.
speaking of that DARE thing, 'cause my kid just went through that a couple of years ago. I think he was 7, maybe 7 or 8 when they had that. Well, yeah, it had to be somewhere in that range because he was young enough not to be. He was still young enough to be naive, and in that they called caffeine drugs and nicotine a drug. And I can remember him coming home from school one day, and my wife smokes, and he says, "Mommy does drugs," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
See,
And I'm like, "What are you?" And he's like, the DARE people said that nicotine's a drug, so Mommy does drugs," and I'm like, "Oh Jesus Christ, really?" So that's that kind of shit right there it's that indoctrination of our kids at such a young age.
called those DARES officers and said, "Yeah, my mom does drugs." What would have
Well,
happened?
exactly. Yeah, I'm sure someone in that class, especially in public, well, held public or private, really, but someone was probably like, "Do you ever know what drugs are? Does your mom or dad use drugs?" And they're probably like, "Yeah, yeah, And it's just something silly like coffee or cigarettes or yeah, I don't know. That whole deer thing is, you know,
But
yeah, I see it has a good principle behind it, but the delivery system is flawed in my opinion.
It's
no,
like those billboards, and I know seen them, especially in California, where they have a sign that says "Report illegal guns," and it'll show a revolver and then a phone number. So now everyone thinks revolvers are illegal. So now they're calling that number saying, "Yeah, somebody I know has a revolver," and blah blah blah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's stupid.
It's I was talking to a lady from the post office the other day who at one of the places I work at. She was talking to me about all the idiots out there, and I flat out told her, I'm like, well, the idiots outnumber the smart people, and I don't consider myself smart, but I'm smarter than the idiots. So
have you guys heard of swatting
I heard
as
of it.
a
What is it?
as a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for
Yeah.
one of the things that if like an anti-gunner person will go out and say, hey, I see this person carrying and it looks like they're gonna hurt somebody, and so all of a sudden all of these policemen or law enforcement, sheriffs and all this, they'll get called out there and be like, oh man, this is a serious situation, and they'll show up in an excited mood, and what the goal is to get these people arrested, but maybe even their ulterior motive or not their well, you know what I'm saying, but it gets people killed eventually. Like somebody's just walking down the street open carrying, if these things that the anti-gunners are promoting, calling the cops on people that are just open carrying legally or concealed carrying and they just happen to see the firearm, and the cops show up, if you don't even know the cops are behind you and you just go to grab your wallet, they're going to shoot you because they're in a heightened state saying somebody just called in saying that you were threatening people. What's going to happen when you go reach for your wallet to go pay at the cashier stand, you know, or something, and you get shot?
See, I'm not saying I've been in that exact situation where somebody has called on me saying that had a weapon, but anytime when I deal with law enforcement, my sentences are heightened, and I always tell them, okay, my wallet's over here. I'm going to grab my wallet. You want to be okay with that and things like that. I know it's shitty that you have to do that, but by golly, I don't want to get shot. So I'm always informative to the officer of what I'm doing, so he gets the results he's expecting.
Well, did you see the video of the kid in Walmart? He was walking around with the air pistol he found on the shelf.
I saw that video, and that video was kind of questionable. It could have gone either way, because but I've read some stuff that said, you know, like he got swatted. Somebody called the cops saying he was threatening people with a rifle. So when they saw him, they were expecting him to be a threatening person with a firearm. Yeah, I saw that they aired the 911 call.
Well, they did an interview with the guy that called, and the guy that called that was later discovered, because he had said he was in the military or something, and they later discovered that guy was full of shit. But yeah, the call was that, you know, basically a undescript man with a gun in Walmart pointing at people.
Yeah, so what's the cops gonna think? They're gonna get a call saying there's a man with a gun.
Oh yeah.
Pointing
well, that's
at
the
people.
thing. That's the problem with, you know, and when they responded, and of course there's, you know, you don't really know unless you were there, but there was video and witnesses that say the cops were ordering him to put the gun down and he didn't. But, you know, I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, the orders and the shot was it was like,
yeah, that was pretty close together. That was a little harder to decipher versus the one in Ohio, where they basically were fucking shooting out of the car as they rolled up on that kid.
Yeah, well, I saw that. Bullshit.
Yeah,
that was the bullshit.
That one
shooting.
was, the police report said that they told him 2 to 3 times.
Yeah, there's no fucking way
to put his
gave
hands
him,
in the air.
What? So
yeah.
That one was crazy.
The car was
compared to what they said.
As fast as the car was traveling, they must have started a mile back.
No shit. Yeah, that was a bullshit shoot right there. That one. That's the kind of shit right there that really.
I remember growing up, and we were always playing cops and robbers with our fake guns. That, you know, our little cap guns looked real and stuff. No one ever called the cops on us. They knew we were just kids screwing around. And nowadays, you can't even carry a plastic toy gun around now.
It's different times, man. It's just different times, different society. I think, you know. I think
Yeah.
Well, our media's played a role in this too. So.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, is that it doesn't matter the circumstances, because I think, you know, the thing that happened in Ferguson, there's no visual, there's no like completely 100% true, you know, proof going one way or the other, except that, you know, like from the things that they put out, if there was blood inside the vehicle and people were saying he was running away from the vehicle when he pulled up, then that's 100% proof that he was at the vehicle trying to get in there. Or even if the policeman pulled the guy into the vehicle and people were saying he was nowhere near the vehicle, that's completely 100% bullshit. Either way.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can't tell anything from that. And, you know, for that kind of unclarity compared to something that was on videotape, and people are treating it the same way, they're like, look, this is proof that the Ferguson guy just shot him out of cold-blooded murder. And, like, people are using that as proof, you know, like, it's getting so contorted and mashed together across the board, and I think that's a big giant problem with the internet and people
Ferguson.
just blanketing things.
Here's an example of Ferguson. Oh well, I shot somebody, but I talked it over with myself, and I found myself not guilty.
Well, the thing about the Ferguson ordeal is the physical evidence, the what's that?
I think he was probably a thug, and
Yeah, well, the autopsy. What's the there's a word for it. I can't think of it. But.
Yeah, you can't. What my point was is you can't just say he was a thug, or you can't just say policemen are messed up people. You know, it's case by case. People are different, no matter where they're from.
Absolutely. Even if he was a thug or a gangbanger, it doesn't give any justification to be murdered. If you know what I'm saying, like I don't think that was. I honestly, in Ferguson's case, I think that it was a. I don't think he was murdered. I think it was a bad situation that went worse. Yeah, I think the cop honest to God, feared for his life, and I think that he used deadly force.
I think that's all bullshit. I think that guy died for no reason.
Well,
we'll really never know.
Well, if you look at it, if you look at the statistics, and if it's true, because you can't tell if it was or not 100%, because the cop could have got the blood on him afterwards and got in the cop car. But if the blood was inside the cop car before he shot he fired his weapon, then if that guy was reaching into his car, if you listen to or follow any statistics, when a person is reaching for a police officer, a lot of times if they can get their hands on their weapon, they'll kill them with their own weapon. If you're trained as a policeman, if anybody gets hold of your gun, most of the time they're going to try to kill you with that weapon. So once somebody's reaching for your body, you're trained to react as if they're trying to kill you, because if they reach that weapon and they overpower you and get a hold of that weapon, they're going to kill you with your own weapon. So you might as well grab it out from their reach and defend yourself, because it's true. You don't know what they're trying to do once they.
You watched that interview with him, with the officer. I don't know if you guys seen the I think it was 60 Minutes or the Stephanopoulos guy did the interview with him. It's a very compelling story, and like I said, no one knows for sure, because we weren't there firsthand. And based on the evidence, the physical evidence, the autopsy, all the empirical evidence that backs up his version of what went down, it's compelling. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, like.
Yeah, well,
but that guy was a big guy in the way that Darren Wilson tells the story. When he's inside the car and got hit, he thought he was going to get knocked. He didn't know. Your training kicks in at that point, and when he's hit, when he's getting punched, he doesn't know if he's going to get knocked out. Well, if he gets knocked out, then at that point you have no control.
Yeah, you can count yourself as dead, or any other number of events, because once you're incapacitated, the other person is 100% in control.
And there's
they
also
can take anything off of you. They can use your weapon. They can use your vehicle to hurt other people, not just you. You're not fearing for your own life at that point when you're in fear of being knocked out. If you're in control of weapons and a vehicle, once that person gets in control of all of that, you're putting the public in danger after that point. If a person's intent is to hurt people, not just you, if they get a hold of all that stuff, they're going to go on a rampage with your stuff. And that's, that's just reading into it way 100%. But you don't know what that person's intent is. If they're coming at you and hurting you and trying to reach for your body, you don't know what their intention is. And in my opinion, that guy, that man, that police officer, he has a family, he has children. And if it boils down to it, take away the badge, take away anything. If a person's doing that to you, you have the responsibility to your children and your wife to make sure that you come home at the end of the day to them. And that's pretty much my last statement on that whole thing. Is if you have kids, they have the right to have you come home at the end of the day if somebody's trying to make it so you don't.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you on that for sure. And the only thing that that's shitty about that whole deal is that there were some, of course every department is different. We all have different guidelines and provisions that we have to follow. And there's different, but evidentiary, the chain of evidence is how that works. I've never known a department that would allow their officers to drive away from the scene, to check their own gun, there was just a lot of things after the fact that went down that weren't by the book. So that's the only thing that leaves room for interpretation on, how in the hell was he able to drive himself, back to the station to do whatever with his firearm before it was checked in by investigators. And
yeah, that was a little shady. I gotta agree with you there. There were some shady practices that were done after the shooting that even I'm like, it's a little suspicious.
Yeah, so who knows, man? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I think we can all agree that there's always going to be an element in any industry, any profession of shitty people, dirty cops, crooked lawyers, bad doctors.
Well, speaking of crooked cops, I know Lauren's wanting to talk about the unmarked police cars here in Washington State and how they're performing traffic duties when in the RCW codes it says they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some YouTube video.
Whenever you're ready, I'll just spell it out for you. RCW.
Did you see that the YouTube video? I mean, that guy put that cop in his place.
It's probably Gavin's video.
Yeah, it is.
That was pretty sweet, man. It was like fucking read the book, dude. Like you can't be. Yeah, that was a great video. The cop was even. I was kind of impressed how the cop reacted though, because the cop honestly was like, "No, I didn't."
Yeah, have you watched the one filmed at Spokane County Jail, where the courthouse is and everything? How he gets he will make the same exact argument, and they just kind of run away. And they won't talk to him, and they won't. They don't want anything to do with him, even though he's like that one cop. He says, oh, I didn't know that, and maybe I can report that. He actually has a conversation with him. There's actually a point in the video where he's at the courthouse down here in Spokane, where the police officer pulls up, and he's like, "Are you aware of this?" And he just I don't remember exactly what he says, but he's like, "Oh yeah," as he's hitting the accelerator and taking off.
Yeah. So that's in your guys' state, like your statutes.
Yeah. Basically, what it says is it is unlawful to do we'll just say traffic stops. Basically, patrolling duties. In a unmarked police vehicle in the RCW, it even tells the cops where to or how to mark, what size of the stickers, where to place the marks, and in whatever circumstances is. And the only circumstance where those cars are legal is for undercover work or or some type of investigation is done.
Now,
So
which RCW code is this, Lauren?
46.08.066. And 067 is the explanation of the exceptions. So the only exception really is for basically doing undercover work, doing a sting.
So
Or
has this been brought up to any of your civic leaders? I mean, is this a big issue?
well, it's getting bigger now because now I have one in my car, and I tell you what, if a state patrolman or a Spokane Police Department pulls me over in an unmarked car, I'm going to be compliant with my license and everything because that's kind of what you have to do when you have a license. But I'm going to tell him that this is an illegal stop, and I want to speak to his sergeant because you can take it to court, and if they're against the law before they even come up to your car, how are they going to prove that that you did anything wrong?
Yeah, well, check it out. I just realized I was looking at some news, and on Christmas Eve there was 3 instances where there was a man that had lights on his vehicle that stopped 3 different women.
Yes.
He was not a police officer, but he had lights on his car, and
Yep.
they are currently still looking for that man.
Actually, the
in Idaho right now, right across the border. But what I'm saying is that that's why it's a law.
Said the Crim 2 report said that that the lights were not on top like a regular cop. It was those hidden lights like the undercovers use. So basically, it's supposed to be. It's just totally wrong and fucked up.
Yeah, that's absolutely why that law exists, because that's it's to protect.
It's limited to confidential, investigative, or undercover work of state law enforcement agency. Confidential public health work, confidential public assistance, fraud, and child support investigations. Those are the unmarked exemptions.
Yeah.
I was posting on one of our local media websites about unmarked cars, and I got viciously attacked in the comments by people saying I'm anti-cop, I'm a blah blah blah, Alex Jones supporter, blah blah blah, and I'm like telling people I posted articles of people pulling over women and raping them within the past 5 years. It's not that hard to find these articles. You look up unmarked car pulls over lady rapes them. There's people pretending to be cops. This is why when you get pulled over, you want to make sure it's an actual police car and not someone posing as an officer. And these people don't get it. They think you're just anti-cop and that you don't want to get a ticket.
Of course you don't want to get a ticket. Come on. But
absolutely. No, I agree with that 100%, man. There's a reason patrol vehicles are marked for that exact reason.
My own legalities? Well, by golly, they need to be accountable for their own legalities.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, I think you guys. If that's your area or your district, that needs to be brought up to some.
This is state law.
It should be nationwide. This should go nationwide to where all cars doing traffic enforcement have to have some kind of a marked vehicle, to where you actually know without a doubt you're getting pulled over by a police vehicle.
Well, it's just. The reason why the sheriffs, because the sheriffs have jurisdiction over the police department. That's just the way it works. And the reason why the sheriffs don't do anything, like in Grant County, for example, is he even said this on record twice that I know of, one on a radio show and one was signed, that the reason why he doesn't do anything because the only reprimand for that officer driving that vehicle, because it goes to the officer, it doesn't go to the agency. So the only reprimand is an in-house reprimand. So basically, it would be a filed event. Basically, oh, you shouldn't have done that, but we're not going to do anything to you anyway.
Yeah, there's no consequences for them breaking that law.
Yeah, so
But what needs to happen is more and more people need to contest their tickets whenever they get a ticket from an unmarked patrol vehicle.
Yeah, so, well, like where I'm from in California, if you had the time, contest the ticket because usually the cop doesn't show up anyway. So, but I don't know about here.
I don't know. Like I said, the sheeple, they just think that I'm anti-cop when I say something about unmarked police vehicles, and it's like they don't get it. And I tell people, wait till one day till your wife or your daughter or something gets pulled over by a supposed unmarked police vehicle, and it's not a real cop. You know
Hey,
what then?
Chris, there has been instances of that happening here, and then if you've ever heard of the South Hill rapist here in Spokane, Washington, he actually used that tactic.
Did he ever get caught?
And he was a serial killer. He was convicted as a serial killer. He was here in Spokane, and he used that tactic a couple of times. And the fact that here in Spokane it's totally accepted by the general populace is pretty ridiculous to me, because I never paid attention when my mom used to say that to me when I was little. She's like, that's the same thing that guy used to use to get people into his car, and then they'd be found out dead right by my godmom's house out on the South Hill. That's what was one of his dump places. And I don't remember how many people he killed, but I know he used that tactic. It was the undercover cop.
See,
And
and I honestly believe that, the people wanted to change just for those very reasons you brought up. It's not because we're anti-cop, it's because we want to be safe, and if we're getting pulled over, we want to be 100% sure that we're getting pulled over by a cop. And another situation was someone said, well, you're going to know they're a cop because they'll have a uniform on. I'm like, I can go online and buy a uniform that looks pretty close to what these guys are wearing. I mean, it's not that hard. The sheeple, and I call them sheeple because they're just sheep. They don't understand that criminals have ways of doing things, and they don't have any morals like we do, to where it's easy to visualize how you could do this without being a criminal. Like, I could easily visualize how easy it would be to pull someone over in an unmarked vehicle and dress like a cop and commit these crimes. But I obey the law, and I'm not going to do it.
yeah, I've personally been in vehicles that had lights and sirens that were meant for like EMT services that could be easily accepted as an undercover cop. They don't look anything like law enforcement. They're totally in the law, as they need those lights as to get to a scene where somebody's hurt. They need to go and treat this person or whatever, and they don't require any markings or anything. And if that car is stolen or misused in any way, it can be totally misconstrued as just an undercover police officer. And if you look at that kind of accessibility, anybody can, not anybody, but a lot of people have access to that kind of thing, to just throw some lights on there, some strobe lights.
You can order light kits from the internet. I mean, it's not that hard to rig up flashing lights on your car.
Yeah, and even if you're licensed to have that kind of thing, it would take them a while to figure out who the hell you are with lights on your car. And even if you didn't, the whole thing with that South Hill rapist guy, he didn't have any lights on his car. He would just pull up alongside the people and show them a badge. These women, he'd be driving alongside them and show them a badge and make a motion for him to pull over. And that's how he got them. He killed people using that method. So
Yeah,
for
I
having an
totally
unmarked
agree that
car,
it's just, yeah. I agree 100% that these cars need to be marked for our own safety, and, for people to insist or point out that we're trying to be anti-cop, and that's not the case at all. I'm pro-police, I'm pro all that stuff, but getting pulled over at 1 in the morning, if it was my wife or one of my
Stone
loved
guy
ones,
left.
yeah.
I'm
But,
legal constitutional.
what was that, Lauren?
I said I'm pro-legal and constitutional police.
Exactly. I'm right there with you, and I think part of that being constitutional is that having marked vehicles. I mean, I'm 100% supporting
I
marked
left.
vehicles for traffic.
Chris pissed off his wife again. Son of a bitch.
Yeah, you know what I found with all the unmarked cars being in Spokane, because they've been here for a long time, so I just accepted them as normal until I started realizing that there is a huge public risk to people that don't know the difference. They'll just accept anybody trying to pull them over in a car that shows authority. Here in Washington, I grew up with that fact, and until recently, I never double thought it. Like I was just like, oh, there is all these undercover marked cars. Even though my mom used to tell me the same thing, was that people used to use this tactic, and I was like, oh, whatever. Never realized that it's totally a public risk. And I don't know. It's just
Well, people say like, oh, if the cars are marked, they're not going to be able to hide and give out traffic tickets. I call that BS because I've been pulled over several times where the guy was fully marked and stuff like that, and I'm like, I had no idea where that guy came from.
yeah. Well, the other side of that coin is that I find myself scared to be driving down the street sometimes when people are like tailgating me and stuff, which is totally illegal. It's an illegal thing to do, to tailgate somebody right up to their bumper. But I'm like, oh, that's probably a cop or something, because they're staying so close behind me, and I'm like, I get all nervous. I'm like, I guess I'm about to be pulled over for some reason or another. Maybe my tail light's out or something, like I get all nervous, and then I think back on it. I'm like, that was completely skewed in my mind. Why would I think that? It was just somebody being an asshole, tailgating me, and the only reason, and why would I ever think that was an undercover cop? Why? That's not cool. There, it that whole just social aspect of it. I'm afraid of people that are being an asshole to me, because undercover cop cars do it to me all the time. Or not to me all the
Well,
time,
even
but
during daylight, when you see a cop car on your bumper, you get paranoid. Like, what is this guy going to find a reason to pull me over for no reason, even though I haven't done
yeah,
anything wrong?
exactly. Well, everybody's scared of a new, you know, finance or financial aspect of their life. Like, what if my tail light's out, and you just start running this whole scenario in your mind, like, oh man, I'm gonna have to owe money now, and I'm gonna have to do this and that. And if you're going through that thought process while somebody's just a normal everyday person is just being a hole to you and riding your bumper, why is that state of fear in my mind? Is
Well,
that
it's
right?
kind of funny. So, you know, I've I've been known to tailgate, and people tailgating me, it doesn't bother me as much. And um, usually I don't drive in my rearview mirror. I drive what's in front of me. So,
Well, especially here in
Yep.
Spokane, when the roads are icy, people tailgate. I think just as much, and it's just a little ridiculous that people do that. But Spokane, it's really popular for people to tailgate you here.
Yeah,
so
well, not just that, it's just the fact that I think it might be a, a police officer, right? Scanning my badge or my license plate is a result of me being out here in Arrow Heights, because they do it a lot out here. They
bro,
have undercover cops out here, and it's not uncommon to get pulled over by an undercover cop out here, and that's why I think I grew up just like expecting it. So like just any person off the street can tailgate me, and I have that fear in the back of my mind of it being a police officer, and being like, oh, I'm about to pull over, and not thinking about like this person could be a bad person, but thinking this person could be a cop about to pull me over, is where that law should exist. Because if I'm expecting it to be a police officer and it's not, and they pull some crap like that, and I'm expecting it to be a police officer and totally keeping my hands away from my gun on purpose, and it's not a police officer, it's somebody that's trying to like hurt me, now my hands are completely away from any access to my gun because I'm trying to show them that I'm not gonna, reach for my gun. And I think that's just one more aspect to it. Is like it's creating this culture of people that are afraid of aggressive people.
Well, guys, we've been on here for over an hour and a half, so I'm going to probably stop the broadcast. But you guys make some very good points, and I do appreciate you guys showing up. But I'm definitely there with you guys with the unmarked police vehicles for sure.
Chris, if you have people like that on your channel, dude, just fucking block them off your channel.
Block who? What are you talking about? The people with the comments.
Yeah.
Oh, this is like on
What you talking
other
about?
pages, like media pages and stuff.
Hey,
On
you
my
guys,
channel, I block people all the time on my channel.
Well, hold up. Let's move it. Why are you trying to get off the chat right now?
Oh, I got stuff to do. You guys know I got to work tonight, so that's why.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, you can come and hang out if you want, man. You can come by later.
You over there at the old spot?
Yeah, the spot where we freeze our ass off, yeah.
Okay, man. Yeah, I might just hike over there on foot because I've been drinking, but I'll be over there.
Well, I won't be over there for a little bit, but I gotta start getting ready.
I was just joking anyways, man. I'll
But
drive.
anyway, I'm gonna shut this down real quick. So I appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out, and hopefully you guys will be on the next chat we do.
All right, man. Catch you later. Peace.
All right, peace out.